As a skeptic, for me, the biggest part of it was that I felt it all needed to be there in order for me to believe any of it. I was fairly young, probably 7 or 8 years old. My mother got divorced from our stepfather, and in her process of becoming a single mom, I kind of reached out to my grandparents at the time and spent a lot of time with them. And when my grandmother passed away, my grandfather and I kind of found each other and really needed each other quite a bit. And so I spent a lot of time with him. And then he was diagnosed with emphysema, which was also what had killed my grandmother. In that process of all of that and him kind of passing away, the people that were part of that church that he had given so much to really weren't there for him. My mom was very angry at the church not having supported him, and I think, as a young kid, I mean, that kind of, I think, affected me a little bit, and so I was angry at him. And at that point, I basically just, for all intents and purposes, walked away from God. I looked to science, to astronomy, to Darwinism, to evolution, to prove a lot of things that I didn't necessarily want to have to worry about. At one point, Kim decided it was time for us to talk again, and it had probably been at least 10 years or so since the other time we talked about religion.
That was when I brought up the issue about it. I'd really like to see about getting us into a church. Yeah, he had to be the one to make that choice, because it had to be something that he would be comfortable going to and listening to if I was ever going to get him there. Probably
a year or so I was just there. It was just like when I was younger and people would take me to church, and I was just, I was more concerned about, is there time to get food between now and the Bronco game? A very amazing thing happened, and that is Kim got baptized. And for the first time, I really had to look at myself and ask myself questions. For me, the hardest part was taking that first step. And that first step for me wasn't accepting Christ. It wasn't even necessarily listening to what was being taught. It was making the decision that maybe I didn't have the right answer. That was the first step. The first step wasn't a year and a half later when I accepted Christ. That's a huge step, but that was by no means the first one. The first one really was the day that Kim got baptized, and I looked at myself and I said, man, maybe I don't have it right. And I walked down to Blake with Kim, and I said, I just accepted Christ, and I want you to pray with me. And Kim cried, and Blake prayed, and I was different.
When he told me we had to go down to pray with you, it was so incredible, and I was in tears. It was just made me so happy.
For so many years, I think that's one of the things that kept me away from God, was this feeling that I needed to know everything in order to be able to accept anything. And I was baptized with my son Ian. That I suddenly realized that it wasn't about education. It was about belief, and it was about acceptance. And I started to see not the knowledge of the people around me, but the grace and the love of the people around me. And I started to see some of that in me, and some of that grow in me. The church isn't the building, it's the people. And as long as the people are authentic, then that's what mattered. What I used to believe actually took more faith to believe than what I believe now. God loved me, always. Always had and always will. And even the 25 years that I spent arguing that he didn't exist, he still loved me.